Damp rocks and fish boxes. The whiskey tasting game.
We back in the game? Whoop, whoop.
That's good.
Hello and welcome to Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes, the whiskey tasting game. This is the podcast where two brothers compete to describe high street whiskey in the most poetic, intriguing and accurate way they can. We're all amateurs, but we're trying to see who's the best noser. I'm your host, Joe Lindley, and with me are our combatants, Ralph.
Hello.
And Nathy.
Hello.
I sometimes say Ralph Connolly and Nathy Connolly, and sometimes just Ralph and Nathy. But anyway, they are both Ralph and Nathy Connolly. Hello, guys. How are you this week?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Just to confound your management of the editing and the time travel element, you throw in a bit of contemporary news. Had the vaccine today, so I'm ready and raring, but that could have been back in January. It could be April. Who knows where we are?
Oh, cool. That's good news, Ralph. Well done. How come you got that so soon?
I don't know. I was signing up with a new doctor anyway, and I think that just came out of that process. It wouldn't have done if I hadn't moved doctors, I don't think.
Oh, so you didn't get like the letter through asking you to...
No, just asked, said, what's going on? They said, yeah, come down Sunday. So This is a Sunday, by the way.
Excellent. Well, it'd be fun to see if the vaccine interacts with whiskey in your bloodstream at all.
It wasn't on the list of side effects. Well, don't do a podcast drinking whiskey, but it didn't say don't do anything really.
Have you had any post-vaccine shivers yet or anything?
No, but I'm pretty tired. But I mean, I think that's not unusual, so I don't know. My arm hurts a bit. I'd hate to be in a secondary school right now, but getting walloped.
It's a classic, wasn't it? Everyone just going around punching each other in the arm after their TB jab or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think they do that anymore. The TB jab, I'm sure they still do the hitting, but
they don't do the TB jab at all.
Well, I might have got that wrong, but I'm fairly sure I did hear that.
Why not, for Christ's sakes? What about all the people with TB out there?
Well, maybe they brought it back, I don't know. Good question. Anyway, is this a medical podcast or is it a whiskey podcast?
It's a whiskey podcast, but it's also just a catching up with you two podcast. How's the bar coming along, Nathy?
The bar's taking a bit of a back seat as I've been making some planters for my tomato plants.
Ooh, very nice.
And putting up some shelves and stuff, so I've been a bit busy with other stuff.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's going all right. I really want to be working on the bar. It's a bit annoying that the bloody tomatoes, when I sort of sowed them a couple of months ago, I didn't expect them to be such a hassle to actually... I didn't have the foresight to realise they were going to grow into 20-odd plants that I'd have to look after.
Is that all you're doing, or you got anything else in the pipeline?
How do you mean?
I was going to suggest we could have a little village fete, harvest.
Oh, you're thinking like a harvest festival sort of
Yeah,
scenario?
a bit of a, just to take the competition out of the whiskey and into the veg arena.
Well, I'll tell you what I've got 4 artichokes, a load of about 8 or 9 cabbages and collies, and then about 20 odd tomato plants. The tomatoes are my real focus, though. I'm going to try and make sure that I get a good crop.
Pretty bold going for cauliflowers and artichokes.
Well, what can I say? The artichokes were just an impulse buy in Aldi. They had some seedlings, and the cauliflowers I just bought when I was in the garden centre. Again, a bit of an impulse buy. It's the exuberance of having moved into the new house and having a garden that I thought, fuck it, why not? Give some cauliflowers a go.
Amazing. Well, looking forward to your whatever you make with them, cauliflower wings or one of these things.
Yeah, collie steak. As it happens, I've had a couple of collies to get rid of this weekend because we overbought. So we managed to work them into last night's tea, and then I've still got another in the cupboard.
What did you have?
We had pork chops with cauliflower cheese and other things.
Your idea of heaven.
I'm sorry, I don't sound very enthusiastic. I don't like cheese, but I do like cauliflower.
I've got a little trick from HelloFresh where you baste them in mayonnaise and then panko breadcrumbs and roast them in the oven, which is pretty good, but probably as good as it's getting in my kitchen.
I'd say cauliflower might be my favourite brassica, if it is indeed a brassica.
There's a lot of brassicas. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head that you wouldn't think of brassicas, but
Well, I just think of cauliflowers and broccolis. What are the other ones?
Well, all cabbages.
Yeah, there's those, but there's also something else that I was looking at that is actually related to them, but I can't remember what it is, so you'll have to forgive me. Maybe squashes or something.
Could be a kind of taxonomical cousin of
But they're gourds, so I don't really know. Anyway, this is getting a bit off-piste.
We've gone a bit off-piste, haven't we? Okay, well, as you guys know, I've asked you to prepare some whiskey trivia each week for a bonus point, so I assume you have prepared those. Are you ready to give me your whiskey trivia?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, certainly are.
All right, well, you first, Nathy. I think Ralph went first last time.
So mine, I'm going over to Taiwan for mine. As you may be aware, a Taiwanese whiskey won the best named single malt, was named the best single malt in the world in 2015. But they only started distilling whiskey properly in 2002. Do you know why that is?
Something to do with China.
Indirectly, but no, I think just to do with the Taiwanese government, that it was, the government basically had a monopoly on distilling whiskey. The Taiwan Tobacco and Liquor Corporation were the only people in Taiwan that were allowed to distill whiskey up until 2002.
Wow.
And even in the Japanese colonial era as well, you couldn't distill whiskey on Taiwan unless you were part of the government.
Okay, so is that the extent of your facts? It's pretty good.
I think so, yeah. I think it's it's pretty impressive that within 13 years of being able to go at it, they managed to get the Best Whiskey in the World award.
Which is the best whiskey in the world?
It was the Cavalan one, which I don't know if I've tried a Cavalan one. I don't know which.
That got a 4, by the way. That was a 4 on the rating system.
Bloody expensive Taiwanese whiskies. Otherwise, I would probably have bought one by now.
They're not like 50 notes, which is,
Yeah, 50 notes for an unaged one.
Wow. Okay.
But I mean, is an age statement where it's at, Nathy?
I just think if you're paying 50 quid, you want an age statement. But maybe that's just me being overly picky.
It's funny. I've been obsessed with age statements for a while because you think I'd want to guarantee that it's 10 years old or 12 years old or whatever. But the revelation that those single malts are actually blends of malts from that given distillery that could be a mixture of different ages, just none younger than that age, is kind of making me want to explore the no age statement arena a bit more.
What I will say about the Cavalan, though, I think climate might have quite a lot to do with that, and they might not be able to age whiskies for that long because it's quite hotter than Scotland, so it reacts with the wood. I think.
I think I've heard that.
I think America is the same. They don't have to. It takes about 3 years to age something equivalent to a Scotch or whatever. Just because it's just the variation in temperature is such that it works it quite a lot in and out of the cask.
So the Scottish environment is very particular to the amount of time you want to age a whiskey.
Well, yeah, I guess it's just slow and steady because not a lot happens. I think it doesn't vary
cool,
too much.
Quite temperate.
Yeah.
So it's a slow age rather than a rapid age.
It's more about the extremes. So it's whether it goes up or down.
A little addendum to my Taiwanese whiskey fact, by the way. Did you know it's also the third largest consumer of single malts in the world?
I did not know that, Nathy. That's surprising. There's not that many people in Taiwan, is there? I mean, there's probably quite a few, but to be up there, I wasn't expecting. But Ralph, let's move on to you. What's your trivia this week?
Well, I mean, I've basically got this book called the Malt Whiskey Yearbook, which is just quite interesting little thing to dip in and out of, and I was scrabbling around about an hour ago when you said that you wanted to come up with something, and I came across this list that says the top 30 whiskies in the world, which, as you'd be expecting, they are what I assume are all blends. Now, I always thought Johnny Walker, maybe I was being a bit naive, was the best-selling whiskey in the world, but actually it is the best-selling Scotch whiskey, but there are 4 others ahead of that, which I have never heard of. Maybe it's not as much a trivia, but I'll ask you a few questions. Where do you think?
Are any of them Indian?
Well, all right, straight cut to the chase, Joe. All 4 are Indian. The top one is called. I'll go through. They're called McDowell's Number 1.
Is the bagpiper in there?
It isn't. No, McDowell's Number 1, which is owned by Diageo. unsurprisingly. So I think when they say they're the biggest producer of whiskey in the world, I think that's probably... I don't know how much of a percentage that takes care of, but it sounds like quite a lot, I would have thought. The other ones are like Officer's Choice, Imperial Blue and Royal Stag, and 2 of those are owned by Pernod Ricard. I can't remember who they own, but I'd never heard of any of these whiskies. Have you heard of any of them?
I've never heard of any of them, no, Ralph.
No, have I said so? Yeah, back on the So because I was thinking, well, hang on a second, that's a good point. India must drink a hell of a lot more whiskey than Taiwan, but I guess these aren't single malts, are they?
No, I think they are all blends, but I always assumed they drank just mainly Scotch, but I think they're actually producing a hell of a lot of their own stuff.
I think there's a bit of a dispute over there as well, that maybe some of the stuff that they call whiskey might not qualify as actually being whiskey by a Scotch whiskey standard, as in not aged for 3 years.
I think it must be to be in this book, though, because they're quite sniffy about a lot of things.
Oh, right. Well, this is one to follow up another week maybe, but that's fascinating. So the top 4 whiskies by consumption in the world are all Indian.
Yeah, and they've all got sort of Scottish shortbread tins. McDowell's, Imperial Blue. I mean, that's not Scottish, but Royal Stag. But I did actually look at this McDowell's number 1, and apparently it did use, I don't know if it still is, but it was a blend of Scotch and Indian whiskies originally, so maybe it still is, I don't know.
Fascinating. Well, very good. I'm very pleased with your trivia, both of you. Well done. I can't decide who I'm going to give the point to, though. So I'll sit on that one for the rest of the episode.
Just cogitate for a bit, Joe.
I will cogitate.
Percolate.
Think it through. Don't rush into it.
Well, actually, can I just ask who's after those 4? By the way, do you know? I'm interested if you can get there. Just
after Johnny Walker.
Well, actually, go on. Who's after Johnny Walker? Yeah, that'll do.
You kind of want to say Bell's or Famous Grouse or something like that.
White and Mackay.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Well, no, wrong continent. Jack Daniels.
Oh right, so we're including bourbon then. Yeah,
I think so. Well, I don't know if... I think Jack Daniels is Tennessee whiskey and bourbon something else, but I don't actually know. Bourbon has to be from Kentucky, I think.
Since we're a Scotch whiskey podcast, we are going off the topic. But
yeah, no, I guess so, but it's more just I always thought Jack Daniels was the most drunk whiskey of anything, regardless of whether it's the same as Scotch or whatever, but yeah, anyway.
I mean, on this point, I'm not sure we are dogmatically a Scotch whiskey podcast, but for the time being, I can assure you we're in Scotland. I liked the use of the word cogitate there, Ralph, by the way. I was thinking of ruminating. And what did you suggest I do, Nathy? It was another...
Think about it.
I think I said let it percolate as well.
Oh, yes, percolate, ruminate and cogitate. I'm going to be doing that. Don't you worry. Right. So with the core game... It's all got a little bit confusing of late, what with episodes getting lost in the ether due to technical problems, but as far as I can tell, Ralph is 1 point in the lead, so still have everything to play for. Quick recap of the rules. There's 5 points on the table for the 3 main categories, which is intrigue, poetry and accuracy. 1 point each if you get the whiskey region, 1 point for the age, distillery and strength, and a bonus of 1 if you get all of those right. And we have the Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes bonus, which is if you manage to slip those words into your description in a legitimate manner, you may get a bonus point. The one with the most points at the end of the series wins a bottle of whiskey. Are we ready to go ahead and have a taste of this week's whiskey, which I've codenamed Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes 6?
I'm ready.
Yes, we certainly are. Okay, let's get into it then.
Okay, take it away, guys.
Before we get going, I haven't even tried this yet, but I did something I saw some mad cat on YouTube do this week was put their hand over their glass and splash their hand with it so that you get a bit on your palm, and then you rub the palms together. I think this is similar to the old sniff in the glass the morning after the night before, if you like, principle. And then you
Pigeon's breath.
Basically, yeah, and then just give your hands a good old sniff, and apparently that is a real other way of unlocking the secrets within the whiskey.
Complex flavours hidden within. Well, I'm just going to, as always, look at it first.
You're not going to bother riding roughshod over my...
I will do that, but let's have the ceremonial eyeballing before we start.
Okay, let's do that.
And this, I must say, is very easy on the eye. I think it's sort of a brilliant gold, a little bit cloudy, but that could be the glass. When I swill it, that's nice transparent amber.
It's very dark, I'd say.
This feels like a recipe for disaster. You're saying put my hand over the glass and shake it.
Well, just so you get a little bit on your palms and your rub it. I haven't even gone down that yet. I'm going to do it in a bit.
For the record, I've done it, and my hands now smell of alcohol, which they did already from all the hand sanitizer. But
is this more pleasant?
It smells. Now you mention it, it smells a bit like hand sanitizer.
it does, doesn't it?
Ooh,
I haven't done that yet, but go on.
Well, I'm going to just say it smells peated. It smells delicious.
I'm not getting that. I'm getting just like vanilla. That's all. It's just whacking me in the chops.
Yeah, I'm getting a
sweet.
little bit of those sort of dessert flavours too, like sort of raisins.
You thinking? I was thinking marzipan just then.
Yeah, some almondy. I'll go with that, Joe. Are you on boat glasses, Joe? They know what usual, like your normal house glasses.
They are boat glasses. They came free with the boat.
Looks like a nice sherry glass.
Les and Alicia left them for me. For the listeners, I'm on a boat. I have a narrow boat when I'm on it today.
Anyway, back to the whiskey.
So far I've got Nathy saying peated and described it as gold.
I'm not getting this peat, frankly.
Ralph said vanilla.
I agreed with vanilla and said raisins. I'm getting a bit of sort of sweet fruits as well. I don't want to kind of just keep repeating what we've said on
I think it's inevitable.
recent episodes, but I'm tempted to just bring apples back in play.
Yeah, you could be on something there. There's no citrus though.
I don't think quite. I was going to say toffee apple. I must admit the peat which I got off my hand, I'm not getting anywhere near as much, if at all, in the glass.
I've just got moss, but is that heather that Nathy's always talking about? I mean, he's the world expert on heather and whiskey. Could you confirm if that's heather? Sort of musty earth.
No, I'm not
Bits
getting
of
heather.
green. It's definitely
I
a
might-
planty
I
smell.
might do on the palate, which I'm about to go in for, but I'm not. Yeah, I can understand moss. It's got a sort of damp.
Damp rock?
No.
I'm asking that. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just saying.
damp
is it?
foliage. So maybe damp sand. Certainly, but moss. Yeah, I can go with moss. Possibly even a bit of lichen.
To be honest, I
Anyway.
had it once and it's done a runner. I've not sniffed it since.
Well, that was just a sort of transient bit of moss, was it?
Yeah, just
Mm.
fleeting. I was about to leap into poetry.
You were
By the
about
way,
to go into poetry mode.
I've been reflecting in the process of re-listening to some of our previous efforts about this poetry section. I mean, it's quite hard not to kind of... The bits where it's gone well, it's essentially... Well, I had to put this. Is it xenophobia? Stereotyping, anyway. That's certainly... Basically, bullshit chat about what we think Scotland embodies. I don't think it's accurate, personally, but... I don't know. That's just a little thought, anyway, to see if you agree or not.
Have you come up? Well, you come up with an alternative sort of line of poetry if you want to,
Yeah,
Ralph.
you can extend yourself, Ralph. You can try a rap if you want, or some sort of a song.
It's not so much that. It's more just... I think that's just where I end up naturally, so...
Do you know,
Thinking,
I'm going to save
where's
it
this
for
going?
another time. But I was doing like I came up with a sort of Seamus Heaney-esque.
He's the one for talking about the peat bog, surely.
Yeah, it was all about him spilling his whiskey and you know, the baby drowning in it or whatever. Or
Sounds a bit heavy.
Does sound quite heavy.
yeah, that's how Seamus Heaney goes.
Pretty train spotting, which is Scottish as well.
We don't support xenophobia in any way, but we do support Scotch whisky.
Well, is it xenophobic? I don't know. It's quite tricky, the whole relationship with Scotland right now, isn't it? I mean... anyway, I don't even put this baby in my mouth yet. I'm just...
Yeah, let's have a taste.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of spice in there. I'm getting aniseed.
I was going to say star anise, you know, there, but aniseed maybe.
What the hell is that? Oh, gosh.
I'm intrigued by this.
That's interesting.
First, I'm just immediately trying to guess what it is, but I'm going to go back into it and come up with some adjectives that might be on the card.
There's a real twist on the finish that I just cannot get my head around on that first go.
It's got quite a big finish, I think. It keeps
but
going,
it's-
doesn't it?
It's interesting.
I think it's got a very cheap start.
How do you mean, like what, thin?
As soon as I put it in my mouth, I thought, has Joe shoved us a bells or something here?
No, it's interesting.
I'm not saying I don't like it, but you know what I mean. It doesn't taste it doesn't taste expensive to me, but
I think I reckon that's partly mouthfeel, what they describe as mouthfeel, and where the ones that are chill filtered and that are less percentage, they're not as like thick and almost umami-ish in your mouth. And I don't think this
Viscous.
one is. But it makes up for it though, I think. Like it doesn't taste cheap to me.
Yeah, I don't want to give the game away, but I'm definitely putting that down as a 40%.
As it advances, it doesn't at all. But it's anyway. So, by the way, on the eye, I'm going to go back and just add in caramel because it looks caramelly as fuck.
Yeah, but I think that's the colouring. There's definitely colouring in this, no?
Yeah, I mean, from what I know about this, you really notice it if there's not colouring in, because it's surprisingly light when there's no colouring, and this is not surprisingly light, so I think you'd probably be safe to say it has a bit of E35 or whatever it is in.
Honey. I'm getting honey again now.
Ooh, that is interesting. I was about to say marzipan, which we had on the nose. Malted barley, possibly.
Well, that would not be surprising. I mean, you haven't chucked any blends in here, have you, Joe?
I'm saying nothing. It's down to you to guess what it is.
Well, when you ask region, I mean, what are we supposed to say if it was a blend? That's what I want to know.
You're supposed to say it's a blend.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. It's got me thinking.
It's sort of chocolatey almost. Like dark chocolate.
You're taking us on a pretty exciting journey, Nathy. Starting off with the gold colour, peat, raisins, sweet fruits, apples, into toffee apples, coming out in moss, damp sand, lichen, and then in the mouth, star anise, barley and chocolate.
True, it's a good point actually. Now you repeat all that back to me, it sounds pretty incoherent.
I'm getting a bit of must and funk. I'm going to say it is like the inside of a octogenarian sporran after the wedding of all 7 of his daughters. They're not all getting married at once, by the way. There's been 7 weddings. There's something, I can't put my finger on this funk, but it's also quite thin, like you say. So it's making me think it could be a blend, but then it's very interesting, which means it's probably not.
I'm seeing 3 men in a graveyard.
Here he is. It's the poetry.
Whiling away, explaining their sorrows.
Have you seen that film 8 Mile with Eminem in it?
I have.
Yeah, not for donkey's ears.
He has rap battles where you're on stage and you have to make stuff up live, and when he starts fucking it up, you get choke, 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 choke. I think that was a bit of a choke moment for you then.
Yeah, it was. I ran completely out of steam.
There's vomit on his sweater already. Spaghetti. Anyway, that was a bit of a digression. We could do Eminem.
So I've got the 3 men in the graveyard whiling away, explaining their sorrows.
That's intrigue right there.
The thing I'm wondering is, are they in Glasgow or are they in East Kilbride or south of the border? It's really got me thinking. Is this something you pick up in a...
Where are you placing them, Nath?
I'm going to put them in Middlesborough, and they are exactly the target audience for this whiskey. Could
you maybe deliver us a couple of verses in a Teesside accent?
I can't. I'm not very good at a Teesside accent, so I'm not. No.
Okay.
It's one of the hardest accents to do.
I mean, I wouldn't know the difference from Teesside to Tyneside. I'm sorry to admit.
Oh, you would. If you ever watch, what's he called, Teesside Tintin, like somebody with a Teesside accent, just like dubbing over Tintin. If you want to know what a Teesside accent's like.
Oh, okay. I've not heard of that, but I will look it up. Teesside Tintin. Thanks for the tip.
No, I think I'll get myself a box of them. Get some cat food for Snowy. And I'll give some fucking shit to the fucking common staff. Get some Taz bars, some Tab Clear. Get a box of them chumps. Get a curly whirly. Fuck me, there's a Middlesbrough Darlow there. Watch me beat this fucking train.
I haven't had a bash on my my hand technique yet, so I'm just going to make a quick throw on that. Maybe that'll get the old lyrics going.
It's quite exciting to watch Ralph enthusiastically rubbing his hands together and then plunge his nose into the cup made by both his hands together.
He rubs his sweaty palms together. They start to burn like leather. Getting to the end of his tether, he splashes whiskey on his hand.
Right, 5 points for that, Nathy. What have you got, Ralph?
I'm getting ornamental bark in a child's playground.
Ooh, I like that. Do you know the potpourri?
Yes, well, no, not potpourri. That's spicy, isn't it? I mean, there is a bit of spice when you sniff the thing out of the glass, but on your hand, I'm just getting musty, woody smell. Which, this is a real intriguing exercise, Jared. What the hell have you given us here?
So who's in the playground sniffing the bark while they drink the whiskey? Or is it just an image?
Well, it's Nathy's three Scotsmen, isn't it?
Right.
Did you say they were Scotsmen? I can't
No, they were
remember.
from Teesside.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Smoggies.
Nathy's three Smoggies after the what do they call them? The borough.
After the Borough have lost 9-0 against Sunderland.
Is that how they sound? That sounds more like a sort of hull.
Well, what's his name? Bob.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, Bob Mortimer sounds like that. Yeah, true.
Mortimer's from Teesside, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like
he
that.
is.
He's a bit middle class Teesside, though, isn't he?
He's also a podcasting legend. We could learn a thing or two from him.
I'd say we're going the same way with the incoherence of this episode, but
I'm quite liking the poetry has become a bit of a team effort.
well, that was just that was just an observation. Not, I'm not sure that I wasn't claiming that to be poetry. If you want to classify that as poetry, that's fine. I'll take some points. No probs.
Okie dokie. Well, unless you've got anything more to add, I would encourage you to try and nail some specifics with this.
Okay.
Is there any smoke, Nathy? What do you think? There might
I don't
be.
think there is. There was. I got a bit at one point, but I'm not on the palate. On the hand splashing thing, I got a brief sort of waft of smoke. But
It's funny with some of these whiskies where there's like a tickle of smoke or whatever. I think Glenfiddich was a bit like that, wasn't it? Where it's like this tiniest thing. And I don't know if it's just that
I think that's
all
alcohol.
whiskey is a bit smoky, yeah, or alcohol is smoky, or wood is smoky.
I'm going to say Speyside, by the way. That's where I'm at with it. Do we need to write that down?
You were supposed to write it down, yes, in case there's a dispute over copying. I don't want Nathy saying, oh, well, Ralph just copied that off me. That's what I don't want.
Got you.
No probs.
Okay, well, I've written mine down.
There's a few things I think this could be. I'm done, I think.
Big reveal. Nathy, what have you got?
I'm going to go for Speyside, 40%, no age statement. Cardew, maybe a Cardew Gold Reserve or something like that.
Ralph?
Well, something I didn't voice just a minute ago is quite reminiscent of Highland Park. I mean, you could say that of any whiskey, it's whiskey, but... And I had noticed this week they've brought out a 10-year-old. I don't know if that's because they've run out of 12-year-old, but I was in my local supermarket and saw it, and it's quite similar. There's a few traits, the almondy and the moss shit I was talking about earlier could be mistaken for the heather. So I've gone for a Highland Park 10, Highland 40%, but that's a complete stab in the dark, and it's probably really wide of the mark. So
I was tempted to say it was a blend, but...
Well, if it is, it's Johnny Walker Black. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I thought we weren't there yet with blends, so I've kind of...
If it were to be a blend, Nathy, what would you say it is?
I'd say maybe like... I think like a... I don't know, I was thinking maybe a sort of supermarket...
What, like a Morrison
yeah,
Savers?
sort of bog standard supermarket
I
one.
mean, that's not bog standard.
Maybe... Yeah, or maybe like an Aldi one or a...
Highland Black?
Yeah, Sainsbury's. It's not a Highland Black. It's not that nice.
Okay, all right. Well, for the first time, I'm going to try revealing it this way and actually bring the bottle up so you can see. Is my camera working?
Yeah.
You go. It's the Johnny Walker Red.
It was quite nice.
Oh, no way. I love the Johnny Walker Red as well, but I wasn't loving this that much.
Well, I'm not surprised now that it's a blend. I'm a bit surprised it's Johnny Walker Red. I thought it might be Johnny Walker Black, but we should do a comparison with those two one time.
Now I know it's a Johnny Walker Red. It tastes much nicer.
I think that really stands up, you know. And now I'm getting a bit of a back on the bit of smoke there, because it's meant to, I think, Talisker is meant to be quite a big constituent part of some, if not all, Johnny Walkers. So maybe that's what that is.
I think it's nice, Johnny Walker. I've only had one bottle of it once.
Didn't you buy it in Japan?
I did,
Of
yeah.
all places.
So it was my evening. Well, I picked it up for like about a tenner or something. And every night, like in the hotel wherever we were, just like sit in the bath and have a Johnny Walker, either a highball or because it's meant to be a mixing with whiskey, isn't it? Really, Johnny Walker Red.
It is, and to be fair, something else has just occurred to me, Nathy, to give you your credit with your Cardew. I think Cardew is also in Johnny Walker.
Is it? That's
Yeah.
Diageo, isn't it?
Wow. Okay.
So maybe you weren't. You're on something there.
To be honest, it was just. I mean, it might be a bit
Or was that a stab in
unfair
the
on
dark?
Cardew. Yeah, I was just kind of like, it's a bit of an uninspiring sort of Highlands or Speyside kind of sort of 20 odd quid whiskey, I thought.
But it really isn't bad, that is it?
Would you? Yeah, I'm curious. Would you rather have this, whatever this Johnny Walker, or would you rather have one of those uninspiring malts, single malts?
I think they're all perfectly nice. I would be fine with any of them. I think I'd be happy to drink this or like, they're not amazingly nice, but they're perfectly okay, you know.
So I think it stands up to my inside of sporran post 7 weddings. I mean, that is a wedding whiskey for some people, surely.
I think that's a good point, Ralph. I think you were very accurate with that. Let me quickly recap what I've noted down for you two. So Ralph was all about the vanilla at the start. Mentioned a bit of moss, heather. We nearly had some poetry there with a fleeting glance of moss, but you never quite made it there. Mentioned aniseed, spice, honey, must and funk, which is interesting. So the Johnny Walker people don't talk about must or funk at all. And then we got onto the ornamental bark in the playground and inside of the octogenarian sporran. Nathy, you said it was gold, peated, raisins, sweet fruits, apples, toffee apple, bit more moss, damp sand, star anise, chocolate, malted barley, and I've written down Middlesborough, but we know why that was.
Cover my bases.
Did you get my aniseed, by the way? I was banging on about aniseed for a while. I'm not saying it is in the tasting notes, but if it does pop up, I want some points for that.
Well, yeah, you said aniseed, and Nathy was also wanting to say star anise. And interestingly, in the tasting notes I've picked up for Johnny Walker Red, what's mentioned is caraway seed, which is another aniseedy spice. So I think you can both pick up points there. But I'll just quickly run you through kind of what I've picked up off the Johnny Walker website and some popular whiskey retailers. So the main thing, I think this was the big, bold statement at the top of the webpage on Johnny Walker, was honey cascading over smoke, which was kind of interesting that's what they were going for. But you did both mention honey, I think. Definitely Ralph did.
Yeah, no, I went back to honey.
Ralph did, yeah, and I think I nodded that along.
And then they've got on the nose, they're saying fresh, citrus, fruitiness, palate, cinnamon, black pepper, finish, long, smoky. There's quite a nice bit of poetry I picked up, I think off masterofmalt.com, which was a bite that blooms into a cymbal crash of intense flavour.
Ooh. Is that just raw alcohol followed by raw alcohol? I mean, I'm not saying that it is, but it's...
You know what? This one is interesting. Like, I think the raw alcohol plays an element, obviously, and then there's this tiny tickle of smoke, and there's a lot of sweetness, and then the rest of it is, I don't know, I think well done to the blenders. It really makes you think about it.
Well, it is an art. I should tell you, I mean, I last time I had this, I bought, it was when I went to Stag Do, and I was on some form of paternity leave, and I wasn't getting paid at the time, so I was pretty skint. And was looking to save a few pennies, so I bought a bottle of this. I took it along, and these other lads there. There was a lot of Scottish people there because it was a wedding. It was going to be in Scotland, and they brought like Highland Park and stuff. And the dad of the groom whipped out this pretty fancy Isla blend from some independent person, and I was just offering this back whenever they were handing me out the various drams, and they were looking pretty sniffy out. But I was actually thoroughly enjoying it at the time, and I stand by that now. Going back to it, it's for what it is. It's pretty good, and I think if you'd give it to someone blind against some other things, it'd do okay.
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I'm not in love with it. I do like it. Like I've got a fond sort of relationship with it, but it's and I've got a lot of fond memories of drinking it. But it's not. I don't think it's amazing, if I'm honest. But
it's the 4th best-selling whiskey in the world, Nathy.
Yeah, it's
or
15 quid as well. Like you're not. It depends what you're comparing it against. Like given it's kind of like, less than half the price of some of the other ones that we've already had, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it was 16 quid, by the way.
It's a good blending, Johnny Walker. I was thinking this with, I was saying earlier when I came on, because I had quite a garlicky tea and then brushed my teeth and then had a dissolvable paracetamol. And I was thinking, this is going to be a bit difficult. I'm imagining if you're like a blender, you probably have to like be careful about what you eat, because you need to really have your senses need to be on top.
You're certainly insured for a ton, I think.
Yeah, but I bet you don't eat much I bet you don't go out for many curries, do you?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's different. It's tough scoring, this one. Tough scoring, because, I mean, it's a Sunday night. We're all tired. You're not natural poets, so not many points for poetry this week, I'm afraid. I think what I'm going to do is, going through for accuracy, I'm going to give Nathy 3, Ralph 2. That's because, I mean, you both said some good stuff, but you didn't get too adventurous. Nathy tried a bit more and didn't go too far wrong. I would have given him 4, but the damp sand and moss and stuff I don't think was really on the money. But the other stuff I think was good. So Nathy 3, Ralph 2 on that. Intrigue, going to give Ralph 2 for the inside of the octogenarian sporran, and I'm intrigued about all these weddings that happened. Nathy, you can pick up a point there for lichen. I quite enjoyed lichen, even though it wasn't very accurate, but it was good shout. Poetry, 0 Ralph, I'm afraid. The sporran was nearly poetry, but it didn't really go there. Same for the bark in the children's playground. So Nathan can have a point for the 3 men in the graveyard that were whiling away their lack of poetic prowess.
What about my little poem about Ralph?
Well, is that the one? That did rhyme, actually. All right, I'm going to upgrade you.
Yeah, I rhymed.
I'll give you an extra point then. Good shout there. Then on to the specifics. I mean, you both got 40%, so you can have a point for that. Then you both suspected it was a blend, and I kind of let you explore that possibility. But I think Ralph was a bit more accurate with going down the Johnny Walker route, and Nathy thought bog standard supermarket. But then he did mention the Cardi, which is actually in it. So it's just going to be 3 points apiece there. Remind me what your facts were. We had Taiwan and
Indian whiskey. Well, and the most.
Mine wasn't really a fact. It was just leading a discussion.
No, this is interesting though. It's about the Indian whiskey and the 4 most popular whiskies in the world, which I thought was fascinating. I mean, it wasn't as good as the Taiwanese one, but
I'm going to give Nathy the bonus for the Taiwan fact.
Hang on, I added on some good chat about aging whiskey in Taiwan.
You did actually. I wouldn't resent your half point to Ralph for that.
I can have half. Fine. I'm in a good mood. Have half. So that means, let me just add these up. We've got Ralph has got 2, 4, 7, 7.5.
Oh, that'll do.
Nathy has got 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, he's got 10 somehow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, fucking hell.
He's in the week's winner.
I think that might have nudged you into the lead there, Nathy.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
So is that Nathy's really got a stranglehold on the series now?
Blend Week. It's like Bread Week on Bake Off, isn't it?
Bit of a googly, isn't it?
Or Kintsugi Week on Pottery Throwdown.
What's kintsugi again?
It's the thing where you get like a broken pot and then you glue it back together with sort of gold. So it's got kind of like a gold patina to it because you've basically made a broken thing into something even more beautiful than it was when you broke it. So it's a real bonus.
You might say that blended whiskey is the kintsugi of the whiskey world. You take all of these inferior, perhaps one-dimensional malts and blend them in such a way that they're greater than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, I have often thought that.
Well, honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised by this Johnny Walker. I've happily drunk it before, but never thought a great deal about it. But imagining you tasting it blind, I was sort of going through the motions, and there's a lot of depth to it. And I think perhaps the pricier Johnny Walkers have even more depth, so it'd be fun to go to those at some point. But I'm impressed. What are we going to score this on the famous out of 5 scale?
Well, I think what it is, it's got to be A high 2 at least, if not a low.
Yeah, I would. I think if it is, do we score related to the price of the thing? Because basically, if it was like a 35, 40 quid whiskey, I'd score it a 2. Because it's a 15 quid whiskey, I think it deserves a 3.
Well, I'd say a 4 if you're going to go on that. You know,
I don't know. It seems a bit wrong giving it a 4, but it's in a way deserves it.
I'll go 3.
Chickening out.
I think there are other blends that are better.
Yeah, I go 3. I don't think I'd give it. I wouldn't give it a 4. Incidentally, actually, and this is plays into that. I didn't get any points for saying my first comment on tasting it is that tastes cheap. Which, although I still like it, was completely right.
Well, you've already pulled out a 2.5 point lead, so I'm not going to add any more bonuses. But fair point, Nathy. You were on the money with that.
In which case, I'd say I'd give it a 3. I think it's a pretty shit hot 15, 16 quid whiskey.
Okay, I can go with 3. Are you all right with 3, Ralph?
Yeah, I think so.
3, which is 1 ahead of the Glenfiddich. Neck and neck with the Highland Park.
Fair enough.
1 ahead, 1 behind Talisker.
1 behind Talisker. I mean, they're all within 5. But, that's the spread we have at the moment is just 2 points. Talisker at the top, Glenfiddich at the bottom, everything else in the middle. Well, with that, I think we should draw proceedings to a close. That was fun, giving you your first blend in the podcast. And I was, to be honest, quite impressed with your tasting this week, that you both suspected it was a blend. So well done.
Thanks, Joe. That means a lot.
Cheers, Joe. I really enjoyed that. That was a good little session.
It was a good exercise.
Have you any thoughts on if this was going to be a cryptic crossword clue where the answer is Johnny Walker Red?
So, Rubber
Rambler.
There you go.
Rubber Rambler. What's another word for red? Crimson.
Communist.
Well, that's okay. Communist Rubber Rambler.
That's brilliant.
Lovely. Well, this episode will be titled Communist Rubber Rambler. I finish with our caveats, of course. So, we're having fun drinking alcohol, but we do recognise that alcoholism and other mental health issues are real and should be taken seriously. So if you think you might be suffering with that kind of thing, then do look up whatever support you can get, either from Alcoholics Anonymous or some of the local drug and alcohol services. And if you have another option, feel free to speak to us. Second caveat is we really don't know what we're on about when it comes to whiskey that much, although I think this week lads sort of proved themselves. And we don't really know how to make a podcast either, but I hope you're having fun listening to it. So with that, goodbye from me.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye from them.